Going to have, so no one gets confused, we're going to have the suspense hearing immediately after we hear three measures that are before us today. All measures before us today, that is SB 240 by Senator Leland Yee, SB 663 by Senator Ricardo Lara, and SB 808 by Senator De Leon, are suspense candidates, and these are measures that have, by the authors, have waived presentation. Therefore, if there are any folks that are for the bills or in opposition to the bills, please feel free to share a few words if you feel compelled to do so. With that, we're going to begin with the regular order of the Senate Appropriations Committee with the three measures. Last bill that is before us today in the regular order of the Senate Appropriations Committee is SB 808. SB 808. Those in support of the measure. Those in support of the measure. I see no support for this measure. Those in opposition to the measure. Mr. Paredes, welcome. Good morning.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members. Sam Paredes, representing Gun Owners of California. And Mr. Chair, I'd like to congratulate you on your newly found status on YouTube. With very few people have been able to accumulate over 1 million hits in less than 2 weeks on with regards to your press conference. So congratulations on that. What I'd like to do is...
Was it karaoke or what was it?
Oh, no, it was quite entertaining, actually.
Thank you.
You should look it up. You'll get a real chuckle.
I tried entertaining,
Over 1 million hits, that's pretty amazing. But briefly...
Let's go.
I'm sorry?
Move forward, Mr. Paredes.
Sorry.
The testimony is fine.
We are in opposition to this bill, as we have pointed out in previous pieces of legislation carried by the author, that we believe that there are some significant legal issues regarding this bill with the enforceability and constitutional takings that will occur if the letter of this bill is followed. We've had a pretty good success in court in challenging some of the legislation, and we believe that the constitutional issues of taking here, in that this bill will call for law-abiding citizens who own a legally owned private property to make changes to the property that are impossible to make, and therefore they would be denied the use of their legally possessed, legally purchased property, and that would be a violation of the Constitution. For this and the fact that we believe that this bill will add more cost to the state by making things that are already illegaler, if you will allow me to use that term. All of the violations of this law are, when used for criminal purposes, are in addition to crimes already committed, and therefore we do not believe this law is necessary. So for this and many other reasons, we believe it'll be an immense cost to the state that is unnecessary. We oppose SB 808. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Paredes. Opposition.
Yes, my name's David Powell. I'm here representing gun rights across America, and I just have a letter from them, if you don't mind me.
Go ahead.
To read it. All right. SB 808 is a federal law conflict. This is a direct conflict with provisions of the Gun Right Act of 1968, 18 U.S.C. Chapter 44. An unlicensed individual may make a firearm as defined in the Gun Rights Control Act for his own personal use, but not for sale or distribution. As defined by federal law, a non-prohibited person has the right to assemble or manufacture home-built firearms for personal use without the need for a manufacturing license. This follows guidelines regarding federal statutes on machine guns and other destructive devices. Local state laws like 10-round magazines, magazine locks, and NFA regulations must be followed. While the senator is holding a common sporting rifle, in your video from the press conference earlier this month, many home gunsmiths also built bolt-action rifles and common pistols from raw blocks of aluminum or steel. This must also be noted that a new rifle with a 30-round magazine and the ability to shoot in a mode known as fully automatic is already illegal in the state of California. This is based on De Leon's falsely based and embarrassingly inaccurate description given during his January news conference addressing home-built firearms. Construction of a home-built firearm is a long and difficult process. It is an art and it is a hobby. Building a firearm is not as easy as De Leon has led voters to believe. While there is a strong national market for hobbyists, it is not an epidemic that needs to be addressed as a crisis. Quite frankly, this law is unenforceable. The federal government does not classify blocks of aluminum or even the partially completed frames or lowers as firearms. As such, they can be legally shipped in the federal mail without specific nomenclature or designation of its contents. They can be purchased anywhere from anyone. From a constitutional law standpoint, this is clearly a violation of the ex post facto. By law-abiding citizens simply doing nothing while they will be in violation of a new law which did not exist when they purchased and assembling the following law. While we understand the spirit of the law is trying to accomplish, we only need to look towards other states to understand that this is fiscally responsible or provides no real safety.
Sir, I'm going to ask you to sort of kind of wind down now. We're going to continue the hearing. Are you almost done?
Yes, I'm on my
Okay,
conclusion right
go
now.
ahead.
We cannot begin to accurately attain what the unintended consequences of this law is. Fiscal costs for return on safety will be negligible. Excuse me.
That's okay. That's okay.
Best.
Happens
Again-
to all of us all the time.
Again, we can confidently say that this does not make us safer and will only affect law-abiding citizens of California.
Okay, thank you. Thank you much for your testimony. Opposition.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, members, thank you for this opportunity. Sean Doherty from Wild Horse Consulting on behalf of the California Association of Federal Firearms Licensees. We have serious concerns and reservations with this measure as it's drafted, the amendments that came out of public safety, and stand in opposition due to that. One of our first concerns, and many of these are expressed in the letter of opposition that we sent to the committee and to the vice chairman, but one of our major concerns is this bill calls for a retroactive serialization of all home-built weapons, firearms, back to 1968. We're talking tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, perhaps millions of firearms that have been constructed at home since 1968. First problem with this is the bill doesn't set forth any type of outreach program notifying these lawfully possessing firearm owners that they now may be in violation of the law and potentially felons. There's no provision, no mechanism in this bill to do that. Furthermore, from an appropriation standpoint, there's no funding for such a massive outreach program that would absolutely have to be necessary in order for this bill to be enforceable. Second, while the bill does call for the Department of Justice to set forth a program by which they would go about issuing serial numbers, it doesn't address what would happen should tens of thousands of hundreds of thousands of home-built firearms get presented to the Department of Justice within a very condensed time frame. Imagine the backlog and the overload that DOJ would have if hundreds of thousands of law-abiding California citizens come to them asking for serial numbers on their weapons dating back from 1968 to 2016. It's a massive undertaking. Additional agents would have to be hired, computer programs would have to be created. You're almost creating an entirely new bureaucracy just to make up for those hundreds of thousands of permits, or serial numbers rather, that would be requested. And then again, there's no funding mechanism in this bill to accommodate that. So we're essentially handing Department of Justice a new program and a new enforcement without giving them the tools and how to do it, nor, most appropriately, the money and how to do it. Second, on more of a policy standpoint, there are a multitude of guns, the 1911 A1 handgun, as well as a 30-06, or even the Thompson submachine gun, that were constructed prior to 1968 and are still being constructed today that look almost identical to the way they existed prior to 1968. How is a law enforcement officer supposed to identify whether a gun is illegal under this law or existed prior to 1968? There's no way for them to do that. So what they're essentially going to have to do is arrest the individual, who most likely would be a law-abiding citizen, confiscate his private property, and then conduct a metallurgical test on the firearm, most likely destroying it, to determine when it was created and what its age was. Now we have an issue of a private citizen, a law-abiding Californian, falsely arrested, their private property falsely taken and destroyed. Have we contemplated the civil suits to local, county, and state governments, not to mention the law enforcement agencies that may come from this? If we have, certainly SB 808 hasn't addressed that. Additionally,
I'm going to have to ask you to sort of wind down.
absolutely, Mr. Chairman. Additionally, how do we address the firearms that do qualify under the curio regulations by the ATF? One such gun could be the Russian-made SKS, which can be made at home and does fit under the ATF guidelines as a curio weapon. These weapons would be exempt from this bill. While we understand what Senator De Leon is trying to attempt with SB 808, unfortunately this measure falls very, very short of accomplishing the goals and creates a massive new program that is completely unfunded and would put law-abiding Californians in jeopardy of being convicted of a felony without even knowing that they're breaking the law. For these reasons, we stand opposed and ask for your no vote today. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Any other opposition to the measure? Seeing none, any questions or commentaries from the members? Also seeing none.
If I could just,
Yes, Mr. Gaines.
I think there was a good point raised in terms of the fiscal impact, in terms of how would this be implemented?
No comment. I waive presentation, Mr.
Okay.
Gaines.
All right, very well, thank you.
Any other questions or commentaries from the members? Mr. Pro Tem?
No.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. Okay, without objection, we will move this measure to the suspense file. All right, so colleagues, as well as members of the audience, that concludes the regular order today of the Senate Appropriations Committee. We will now move to the Appropriations Committee suspense file hearing. Just want to make a couple announcements before we start. We will move rather quickly through the agenda. We will move so in alphabetical order, therefore author's last name. I will announce the author's name, the measure number, and if there are measures are being amended, how are they being amended? I can say that we worked very hard. I want to thank the staff as well as my colleagues and my colleague staff, and in particular I also want to thank and recognize our Vice Chair, Senator Mimi Walters, who couldn't be here today. We have Senator Ted Gaines, a fine colleague, and I want to thank the staff on the Republican side, the Appropriations Committee, as well as the Democratic side. Both staffs have worked very hard to scrutinize every penny, given the fact that our economy is getting much better. Nonetheless, we're not exactly where we'd like to be, and we have to make sure we're stewards of the taxpayers' money. So, much credit to each and every one of you for your cooperation as well as collaboration. So, we're going to start, and again, we're going to move rather quickly. SB 199, dealing with BB gun devices. We're going to do a roll call. It is a due pass recommendation. Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
The motion is due pass to the Senate floor. De Leon?
Aye.
De Leon, aye. Walters? Gaines? No. Gaines, no. Hill? Hill, aye. Laura? Laura, aye. Padilla? Padilla, aye. Steinberg? Steinberg, aye.
Measure passes on a 5-1 vote. We're going to go to SB 808, dealing with firearms identifying information. This is a due pass recommendation. We're going to substitute the roll call from SB 199. The bill is approved on a 5-1 vote with Senator Gaines voting no.